It's everyone's favorite CDL coverage show. Welcome to the COD Job. Do you guys forget about that? Because we didn't.
I kind of did. I had to ask. I was like, "What was that name we came up with?" It was zany. What was at the top?
The zany job. Yeah, I feels like we need like a movie intro for that.
Yeah,
you know,
like a classic radio. Like, welcome to the COD Job. It's me, Cole. It's me, Jordan. Yeah.
Well, that's what we're here for, not to make those silly radio noises. But
it was fun though. I can see why they do it.
Yeah. But we're here to talk about LA Thieves opening weekend. Remember, it's CDL 2023 season in 2022. We cannot contain our excitement over this. Jordan, have you got a beverage with you tonight?
I haven't.
No ASMR moment from me tonight. I have prejuvenated.
Bro. I think you just
is that how it works?
New term.
Is that how we're prejuvenated tonight? Sorry to rip it, but
I mean that makes a lot of sense. Actually, so you rejuvenate after you've dejuvenated. You're prejuvenated. Cole. Right?
That I'm tracking with what I said myself. Yeah. Anyway, this will probably be a shorter pod, kind of like the one we did last week. And we're just going to go over a few impressions from the two games that we played this weekend, as well as just kind of what we're feeling about the game itself. So you guys know, Jordan and I hated Cold War so much, and then Vanguard was an improvement, but still didn't feel quite right. And so we've been anxiously awaiting if Modern Warfare 2, the successor to our favorite Call of Duty, the Modern Warfare 2019, would be as good. So don't go anywhere. We'll talk about that as well. And then we've got some listener questions as well that we'll get to. So should be, just think of it as a mini 100 talk, but under the COD Job banner. That's I think what we're going for this time. So shout out Oak Boy, shout out John Robinson in chat. Just wanted to mention that before we get going officially. Run it up. Oh, I still have that on the board, I believe. Is this the right one? No?
You know I can never hear this.
It didn't even do it. Actually, it didn't trigger it, so I guess I don't have it on the board. I'm too rusty. NA production.
Yeah. SMH, Cole.
SMH. Feels good to see the boys back on the Rift again. The Rift of Call of Duty. The howling what's the name? The Howling Asilo or whatever that one map's called. I don't know.
Yeah. What's that hotel called? Bierhofen.
Is that an Elgato lore reading right there?
That was for free. Yeah.
Before we jump in, should we answer this question from John Robinson in chat? He says, real question, are you also thinking about doing a Valorant pod? Well,
about it.
Do you remember our Valorant pod? The funniest thing about this, I mentioned this on stream, the last episode of Fast Peak last week that's available is titled 100T Valorant is back and so are we. And then we went on a 6-month hiatus immediately. Basically what had happened was so many 100 Thieves esports to watch, so little time in the life of a dad. So we had to kind of pick and choose. And I would love to do more Valorant, and I think we will, just not super regularly. That's probably what where we're going to land, but we'll see. Hopefully we can fit in as much as possible, because Fast Week last week is actually a super fun show to do.
Yeah. And it's fast. The name, it's a quick show. It's kind of like this, but with structure that's designed to keep it fast instead of just us having fewer topics. The thing that was a big challenge last year with Valorant is that we didn't really have a consistent schedule. So it'd be like, okay, big events to react to and talk about, and then if you don't end up qualifying for something, it's like, and a major downtime, and then we're back, and now it's, well, we didn't make it, but we have last chance, or we did make it and there's no last chance, so
and you wait 3 months. Yeah.
So maybe the favorite system that Riot's put in place will make it easier for us to have a consistent schedule. That would probably make it more feasible to do more than every 6 months.
Midweek League of Legends, that may open up some opportunities as well.
We got to sit down and pull out the old day books. What do they call those in the old times? Your planner guide.
Your planner decks.
Daybook.
Daybook. I like Daybook. Anyway, Ron also said, but what happens when we have 3 likable and championship quality rosters?
Yeah,
and do you want to link the LCS roster right now? Is that what you're suggesting? We know the other 2 rosters.
We kind of ran into it though, right? It was Valorant, Masters. What was it? The big one called at the end. They were Champions.
Champions Tour.
Biggest winners. And then we had COD Champs, and then we had Worlds.
Yeah.
All hitting at about that same window. So it's tough. It's
so
tough
it's
out
a
here
lot.
for dads.
It's a lot.
Yeah. I mean, it's a great problem to have. We're happy.
Yeah.
We just ended up watching a lot more than we did talking, which worked for us.
So long answer short. Yeah, we're going to be doing some Valorant, just probably without the frequency that we would like to do it. I think League of Legends is our lifeblood, for better or for worse. We'll probably always be committed to that.
I just realized, why don't we just transition our entire show to TikTok? We can do 3 TikToks a week. CDL, Valorant, League. There it is. We spend an 1/8 of the time, a million times the views. There it is.
We get Shynuck as a consultant on it to help us out.
I'm not even sure who that is, but probably
David Shynuck, our LCS friend.
Oh, I feel like I haven't heard his
name pronounced
in some time. Yes.
Yeah. Anyway, so Call of Duty League happened this weekend. We played not the Paris Legion anymore, but the Vegas Legion. Same brand, same doo-doo team. we did look. We had a bad SND. Can we get that out of the way? We lost 6-2 in the SND, and it did not look particularly effective. It didn't look particularly good in the Fortress map. But I thought, other than that, we were pretty solid. A couple of hard points, both went by about 50 points each. I felt like people were a little worried / alarmed that our hard points were closer. Maybe the 3-0 control is like, hey, yeah, we're back to our old tricks here. But yeah, I saw some sentiment that we should be beating them on the hard points by more than we did. How do you feel about that? 50-point victory is not a close game, but it's not a blowout victory either. What do you think?
Yeah. I mean, look, this will be kind of the theme, but it's early. It's a new title. And I think, rushing to any kind of major alert mode at this point it's a premature. So yeah, I'm not overly worried about like a close, especially if it's like a close game, but we still get the win, right?
It feels to me like, some of those really good playoff NBA teams where it's, even if it's close, it's always under control. And that's how it feels to me to watch us against Vegas. It was like, I think like, especially the first hard point, I think we got down by like 60 points right away or something. A couple back-to-back hills that didn't go well. But it just seems like the boys have confidence to not let it rattle them. And maybe that comes from winning the championship. Maybe it comes from running back the roster. It is interesting to find that in a brand new title, but that's the vibe I was getting here. It's like, we got this. Yeah. And that if there is one thing that I want to see early, it's that. It's, just feeling confident and no panic mode in the team. And that's what I sensed, especially during those hard point maps. Of course, it was a little irrelevant during the control where we just smashed them and embarrassed them. That has been historically what we've done to a lot of teams when it comes to the control mode, especially since the back 9 of the previous CDL season going into this one. SND was a little wonky though.
Yeah.
So one of the things we talked about before was that when Shane came over to the team, in the
Mhm.
summer last year, S&D seemed to be one of the main focuses of what he cleaned up.
Yep.
Um, so because of that, I don't see a bad loss to Vegas here as like I don't know, as a big deal. I mean, we lost kind of decisively to FaZe as well in the second S&D that we played, but it's
Yeah.
like it just feels like we've got this in good hands. So
Is it
I bet we pick maps and kind of develop them along the
Yeah.
way, you know? And so I'm interested to see, like, early on, we'll probably have one or two maps that we're better at. And
Mhm.
maybe the Fortress just isn't one of those. I don't know. What do you
Right.
think?
Yeah, that's so being just one weekend in, like the only thing I'm doing is thinking about kind of the macro of this entire team's arc, which is kind of a fun thing to do. We got to do this with League, right?
Yeah.
Where we ran back the same roster, and the question wasn't like maybe this player is just not that good of a fit. Like we know that all these players are a good fit. Now, obviously, there's going to be adjustments with a new title and people change over time, right? So you can't just assume that you get to face roll it back to another champs run. But yeah, think about last season, right? Like it came to be that there were certain maps that we didn't lose, kind of no matter what. And over the course of this roster, there have been modes that we were bad at that we somehow flipped and became either very good at, or even like I think at one point we had like best in league stats at.
Mm.
Um, and so there's been a couple of different times where we've taken what was considered a weakness and worked on it and got it to the point where, and then by the time we we're in champs, honestly, it just didn't look like we could mess anything up. Like
Mhm.
we were so dominant. Um, so like we shouldn't expect that. But if we are looking a little flat in S&Ds, I'm not at all concerned where I'd say that's going to be our Achilles heel. It doesn't matter. We're going to lose more matches than we win if we can't ever win an S&D map. I just think that for right now, it's kind of more interesting just to see like where are the fine tunings that we need to
Yeah.
do, because you can have confidence that we're going to do that because we have a couple times now.
Right. And going up against FaZe early on in the season also is a nice little like benchmark point for us because, obviously I think FaZe is going to be one of the top teams again. They are largely the same. They switched out Arcides for Slasher, which
Yeah.
is an interesting move. I actually, even though I love Slasher, I'm not as confident that that's going to be a good thing for them, but still on the strength of Celium and Simp, who I think are two of the best in the game. Though Simp had a little bit of a rough go against us. I think those guys are just so good that FaZe should be a perennial contender as far as the 2023 season is concerned. So we get to benchmark ourselves against them, and what was the result? It was a very close match,
Yeah.
like very close 2-3 loss. And honestly, if control goes different for about 1 second, we 3-1 them.
Yeah.
So
Yep.
I mean, it's hard for me to look at this weekend and be like, yeah, this, there are some definite things to work on.
Right.
I'm with you in the camp of like, we just kind of sit back and see what we're good at, what we're bad at, what adjustments we need to make, what rhythm we need to find or whatever. But from the jump, it seems like we're reasonably put together here. Now,
Yeah.
I think one of the interesting indicators of this is when you look at our KD versus our I guess like game scores or objective scores or whatever, right? Because KD wise, we're not doing very well, I would say. Like against FaZe, Kenny minus 0.82, Envoy minus 0.85, Draza minus 0.86, right? And Octane is slightly positive at 1.04, right? So we've got one guy barely positive. Everybody else is fairly negative.
Yeah.
And they're like the flip side, right? Like Celium was a 1.52 KD, right?
Wow.
Abizi 1.1, Slasher 1.15. Simp, like I said, he didn't have a good outing against us, probably because he's in his own head being a little child about snaking while he's watching Celium snake like I've never seen anyone snake before during that match, and trying to like call out Draza. Goodness gracious, what a child. I hope he gets over it, man. I really want to root for that guy, and I am not feeling it right now. Anyway, enjoy your 0.86. But still, the match was very, very close. Like, even against Vegas, KD wise, we weren't super dominant. It was, Kenny and Draza were like 1.13, 1.18 respectively. And Octane's Envoy slightly negative. They were slightly negative all across the board. So it's like, we're not gun wise, kill wise, popping off like crazy yet.
Yeah.
We smashed Vegas in the games, and we kept it really tight with FaZe. Like I said, it was very close to being a 3-1 match win for us. It ended up being a 2-3 loss. And that is very interesting to me, because it's like we are playing the game and the strategy pretty well.
Yeah.
Obviously, we're not doing everything perfect. Some of the hard point rotations are late or bad or whatever. But like, for the most part, I think when you do that well in the game while not getting so many kills, there's a play style advantage that you have that's likely coming from big brain stuff and just confidence in your team, rhythm, all that. Right. So I think that's like a huge positive, and not to read too much into that after 2 games in one weekend, not even in a LAN, right? This is an online match. But I'm just like looking for early like signs of something. I think that's pretty encouraging.
Yeah, I agree. And I noticed a similar thing. And look, I'll be the first to say, I don't watch other teams when it comes to CDL. Like, I'm a homer, and I watch our guys, and that's pretty much it. Much less LCS. I'll tune in to watch at least one other or 2 other matches.
Right.
So I'm not gonna have the best read on how other teams are doing, how they're looking, but I will tell you, I noticed a repeat or recurring theme with this team, this roster going into this year. It does feel like in different maps we have people popping off at different times. Like,
one of the other things you look for, right?
Yeah, I've always thought that's one of our strengths, is that we legitimately have 4 people who can carry a map on any given map, and that doesn't mean that they're all 4 carrying every map. But you will routinely have at least one guy who is like close to double positive on a map. Like, that dude is cooking. So that's good. And I feel like that's like, even if we're not all consistently hitting at the highest points we can, you got to have that player who is ready to pick up at any given time. And I think that's still there.
It's crazy that we have 4 options like that. I think that's a good observation.
Yeah.
I think most people looking at the roster are going to expect Kenny and Octane to be able to do that from time to time. But they may not have the same expectations of Envoy and Draza. I think Draza draws a lot of personal hate, based on his, social interactions with people, with Simp's little crybaby mode, and with people complaining against his girlfriend, right? During Champs, or was it New York? I can't even remember. In any case, he draws like some unnecessary hate for that. But, we've seen him go nuts. And get things done. And Envoy, we saw Envoy like single-handedly win us maps down the stretch during Champs.
In big games.
So it's like Envoy is one of those guys who just doesn't seem to like ever really go away. You'd think maybe we're not going to expect too much out of him, but he will have that map where it just brings us back from the brink. All 4 options can do that. You're right. And that's not a luxury that many teams have. So it's going to be hard to say, because it's not like, I feel like no one on our team is going to be like a league MVP favorite, right?
Yeah.
But everyone is capable of having an MVP caliber map or match. You know what I mean? So
yeah, that's a huge strength for us, and I think that was really one of the things that kind of allowed us to cruise in some of even the late season matches. Just like it's really hard to plan for a team where you have 4 weapons. So and the flexibility too. Like, our players have switched roles, they've transitioned between weapons really effectively. So even if, like, as the meta gets settled, I'm less concerned. Like, we might make a change that just fully unleashes somebody, you know, like we've
Yeah.
seen that happen too.
Yeah.
So
This is a very much like we're going to be fine kind of season for us. Like maybe more so than any other 100 Thieves esports season. I felt
yeah,
like, geez, these guys are going to be fine. Like, let's
yeah,
just see, let's just wait to get further into it and see what happens. Um, the game itself, this is our first look at pro play, officially. How are you sensing like this game's gonna go? What do you think about like the feel of it? Time to kill has been pretty quick in
yeah.
general, but maybe the movement and play itself has not. I don't know. What are you seeing when you watch the game, and what conclusions are you drawing, especially compared to Vanguard?
Yeah. So I'm on record as saying that Modern Warfare was my favorite of the kind of the most, I guess, the titles since then. I wasn't in super closely with COD for a little bit there before Modern Warfare. Favorite to play, least favorite to watch. Personally, I am not feeling super confident that this game is going to grip me like some of the other titles have.
Mm-hmm.
It might be that we've ruined. I'll speak for myself. It might be that I've ruined myself by getting back into competitive COD, or at least kind of getting into it with us for the first time um, on Black Ops 2. Wait, Black
4.
Ops 4.
Mm-hmm.
Black Ops 4. And because that was just such a fun and dynamic competitive title.
Yeah.
Like
Goodness.
it was so different, so fun, and like it felt like there was a much bigger sense of player identity. So it was really easy to get to know and follow and identify what the different players were going to be doing. Um, I'm not getting that vibe from this game. I just got to say, like, time to kill is so fast. Um, Even with having the trophies, it still feels like you're just so rapidly flipping between alive and dead and where you're spawning and where the action is that and fully admit I am not like a big competitive COD guy, so there will be players who don't have as much of a hard time with this and just viewers who don't have as much of a hard time as I do. um I think I'm going to struggle with this title. And there's a part 2 to this that I'll wait for and let you react, but that's this is week 1, and I'm kind of like, all right, this is a different viewing experience than some of the other CDL stuff we've seen, or COD World League at least.
I will say that I agree with you about Black Ops 4. I thought that was such a fun one to spectate. Like
Hmm.
I just it was so much fun to watch that. The abilities were great. The combat felt fast and good, and just knowing what's happening in the game seemed a little easier. But I am surprised how much I did like this, especially because there is a bit of I mean, I know you're talking about time to kill being so fast, which it is, but at the same time, the way they're playing is a little bit slower than I expected, especially ARs.
Hmm.
Um, time to kill being fast, I think, is ultimately a good thing with viewership because it allows for pop off plays in a higher degree. Like, think of someone flying around clearing a room unexpectedly. That's much more of a reality with this fast time to kill. Yet you see a lot of like prone and crawling and like, just
Yeah.
kind of waiting with ARs out. And I think that's kind of interesting because it does feel like there's a different gear the game hits on objective modes where, time is an issue.
Right.
Versus when, you're just playing like a hard point. And I'm not saying time is never an issue in hard point, right? But it's just like constant respawn, whatever. It's played differently. And that's kind of cool for me. I do like the variance in the pacing. But part of me misses just seeing nonstop like flying around. So
Yeah.
I don't know. Ability wise, there's nothing like spectacular for movement or kill streaks, that kind of make things unbelievable. Like there's no like grav slam, right? I think grav slam
Right.
was one of the most fun things
Yep.
about Black Ops 4. So there's that. But I honestly I am warmer to how the game plays than I thought I would be.
Hmm.
It's early, time will tell. But I think it's going to be okay. I don't think it's going to be Modern Warfare 2019 to spectate. I also don't think it's going to be Black Ops 4.
Right.
You said you had more to say.
Yeah, and I guess that's the second part for me is this is a 2-year title. Like we're kind of in uncharted territory here so far as and here's the thing that I think of when I hear that. The CDL doesn't have a great, so they have kept their experience fresh by just pressing restart once a year. You didn't like that one? How about this one? That wasn't quite your thing. What about this game that is branded the same, but it maybe a completely different engine, right? So I guess my concern is they don't really have as much of a experience keeping something fresh without having a new thing altogether. So travel through time with me, Cole. It's a year and a half from now. It's summer 2023. No, 2024.
We're reigning champs again.
We're still playing the same modes on the same maps. You cannot tell me that people wouldn't be bored of that.
I think they're going to have new maps.
Okay, new maps.
They have to. That is the one thing they have to do. If they do not have a new set of maps, it's a massive problem.
But yeah, yes, 100%. But here's the thing: like, there are plenty of games that, like, Summoner's Rift has been Summoner's Rift since League came out. They release multiple new champs in a year. They also do a pretty, like, they do big, they do big changes between, right? That fundamentally change the way the game's played. The thing I feel like Activision is slow to even balance guns, right? So it feels to me like there's a risk here, and it's that they don't do enough to keep this feeling like a fresh experience. Like, I think they kind of got to try some stuff.
What if they go fully the other way and, like, Fortnite event it? And so suddenly it's like, oh, well, this is the Dead Mouse Major, and he's going to do his DJ set in the middle of the map while you're trying to kill everybody.
That would be an idea. Try that. But you know what I mean? Like, there are no operators. You can't do operators in this game. The only things you can change are the map and the kill streaks. But it's like everybody just GAs those out anyway. So yeah. I think it's gonna be like, how many months of M4 versus whatever else is in at the moment accepted to be the gun are we gonna get before people are like, wow.
I like this point, though, made by Crockpot in chat. He says League doesn't use new maps. CSGO doesn't as well. CSGO especially, you think about that, it's the same dang game.
CSGO is the counterpoint. League doesn't count because everything else changes. But CSGO is an interesting one.
I think the thing is, you also just have to, like, there's like a meta set by the fans, right? What they're used to, what they expect, and they expect the change. They expect the new maps. They expect things to be different every year. And measuring against that expectation makes the game inherently different. CSGO is more strategic, more, tactical, and you can do the same maps and have new strats, or just have better execution, and it's still, like, very dramatic and fun to watch. Maybe people are just more patient for it as well. Call of Duty is like, gamer brain game, and it's like, yeah, got to be new and fancy and fun and different, or else it's bad. So I don't know. I could see it going either way, but I think based on fan expectations, they gotta have new maps. That's just the one thing I'm gonna stand on for sure.
Yeah. What do you predict? Like, how do you think? So I recognize the numbers were great this weekend. Like, they're starting on the right foot, which is awesome. I love to see that. Where do you think things will be as we near the end of Modern Warfare 2?
Like 2024, near the end of 2024. Well, I think at that point, even if we're on new maps, it'll feel so solved and static.
Mhm.
We already saw that, champs last year, it was pretty much the same map selections for people, and we kind of knew what everybody was doing.
Right.
So yeah, I think it will feel very solved at that point, um, even with new maps.
Right.
So that could mean that it's more easy to predict which teams will do better. It could mean that um, there's more of like a continuation of storylines, like stakes feel higher because you can't just write off game results for like, oh, there's a new map here, or bug GA streak here, like what
Mhm.
happened with Cammy or whatever. There's just stuff like that where you can write off entire results based on the weirdness and the glitches and whatever.
Right.
And that should be eliminated. So I don't know. I'm not sure which direction it goes in, but I do lean towards it will feel stale because there's not as much complexity for this game on how it's played.
Yeah. Yeah. That's what they have to solve. I mean, there's an upside to this, which is they're not pouring all the resources into what's the next COD game,
Yeah.
right? Or at least not right away. So hopefully that means
I
that they
mean,
can do
honestly,
some
they
of the
should be
stuff.
working just as hard because the
Right.
condition that they ship these games in is honestly atrocious. And now that I work for a software developer, like I would be fired if we shipped something like that. So,
Yeah.
I mean, it's just unjustifiable. So they clearly need to spend all the time working on the new one in order to
Right.
ship a game that has a heartbeat. But yeah, I get what you're saying still. Coming up this weekend, we get group stage going on for Major One in earnest. This was qualifier seeding kind of thing, which actually yielded an interesting result because the standings are like not that stratified. It's like there were points at stake, but it's like we landed in 8th place at 1-1 with an above 50% game win percentage, like
Mhm.
map win, right? Uh, but of course we lost to FaZe, so they have the nod up on us. I don't know why Ultra and LAG and Optic are ranked above us, but they are for whatever reason. I don't
Alphabet.
know. It just feels like, what'd you say?
Alphabet. I'm kidding.
No, yeah, it's not that. Anyway, I don't know what's going to the rankings, but it's like it's everybody is everywhere, Subliners are in 12th, Rockers at the top, Boston's near the top. It's just like who knows what we're gonna get. And that's kind of exciting for us. So when we go into group
Mhm.
play this weekend, we are going to be playing Mutineers on Saturday and then Optic on the Sunday. So
Nice.
I feel it's impossible to draw any sort of conclusions about
Mhm.
what's going to happen in these games. But we're playing against the 9th seed and the 4th seed if you feel like deriving any meaning from the standings, which I
Is
don't think you
Optic
really
9
can.
because they
Optic are
forfeited
4th.
even with forfeiting?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Wow.
So Optic probably a pretty difficult opponent. Florida, feel like Florida's actually going to be good this year. So
Hmm.
I really don't know what we're gonna get other than a nice test to start things off. And I think that's fine. Like
Yeah.
I'm not tripping on this.
Yeah.
Let
I
me
mean,
see if I can
going
actually see
back
the
to
bracket.
where we ended the year last year, it's kinda like there's nobody that I'm afraid of, you
Mm-hmm.
know?
Yeah.
So yeah, at this point, it feels like the almost in a way, getting some of that stiffer competition early will give us a better chance to kind of evaluate, like, have we lost a step? Do we need to mix things up? Is this new title taking longer to adjust to? That kind of thing.
Yep. We did have some listener questions and stuff that I wanted to make sure we got to. Some of this stuff we've kind of talked about along the way, but let's hit this. I think we've got 4 here that we can go through.
Nice.
Jobless Jack, still in search of a job after all this
Mm.
time. So if anybody has any leads or LinkedIn connections, please hit Jobless Jack. He asks, what do you think LAT needs to work on the most going into this next week in Raleigh? Personally, he volunteers, rotates on hard points, adapting to the other team in S&D and control. Those are his answers to that question. For me, I'm like, I kind of think we're fine. Like, the S&D is a little bit weird to me that, you know, we did lose quite handily to Vegas, and the second time through the S&D to FaZe. I was a little surprised by that, but I honestly, it didn't feel like there was much where I was like, okay, this was looking really bad. This is a clear point that we need to focus on. Plus, it's small sample size anyway. So if I'm forced to like pick something, I guess I'm looking at S&D. It feels like maybe our map knowledge is not as great for the maps that we've played so far in S&D. So that's one thing I would volunteer if I, you know, had a gun to my head about it. But I really I don't feel like there's much, you know, in the way of that right now.
Yeah, I was gonna go the same way. Kind
not
of
to give a disappointing answer, but yeah.
No. Well, and, you know, obviously, for me, it's just I think we need to accelerate our path that we talked about earlier, getting back to where we are a scary presence on the S&D scene, right?
Yeah.
Because I'm confident we can get there. I just think it's going to take time. So I would put in some extra reps after this last weekend to start getting in that direction.
LAT Intel asks, which LAT player's performance has surprised you from Vanguard to Modern Warfare 2 transition? So looking at where things were with Vanguard and what we predicted for this game so far, who on LA Thieves has been the most surprising? Okay, so setting aside the fact that this is small sample size theater, as we've pointed out already, I think like if I had to point to one thing, it may be that I thought Draza would do a little more. Because of he seems to be someone who's motivated really like heavily by, you know, the chip on the shoulder. And there's certainly been a lot of smoke in his direction. At the same time, maybe because of the meta where M4 domination is happening, that shouldn't be as surprising. But maybe then my answer could be I'm surprised that M4 is so dominant and no one's done anything about that. I almost want to look at Envoy, but at the same time, it's like he's kind of where I thought he would be.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I again, force me to spit out an answer. I think I'm going to lean towards Draza. I just thought in the opening weekend we get just a tiny bit more from him, especially against FaZe. Like FaZe is kind of like the enemy for him right now. It's Simp, you know, and the Snake Master Celium.
Snake Master. I have no idea if this is actually the case because I need to go back and look at the numbers to really dig into this. It felt to me like, I don't know. It didn't seem like Octane was beaming as many people as I thought he would.
Dude, he had that spot. He had the turret spot against Vegas there. He was like frying people.
I must have missed that.
He had just an insane streak up there. I was like, oh my goodness, he's back.
Yeah. Okay. So yeah, I didn't catch every minute of every game, but it does feel like, I mean, that's especially with the M4 strong. Like I want to see. I expect that he'll continue to kind of assert himself in this meta. So that's what I'll be keeping an eye on this weekend because we know he can do it.
Jency in chat had a good answer for this that I'll just read because I wish I would have thought to say it. He says, I was surprised Kenny struggled so much against FaZe. The M4 meta should support him, and he was so good last year. But it's like watching him, like I know like KD wise, it looked bad. I didn't feel like watching him, he was bad. So maybe that's why. He was lowest damage across that match. I don't know. He just did. I wasn't bothered by it, but it's at least a good, thoughtful answer from him. Orion, I think that's how he said Orion on Twitter asked, does the community, and so you, viewers, fans, feel like we made the right decision retaining our whole roster into the new season? How is that unfolding as expected? Was FaZe a fluke? What's the vision moving forward? The trouble with the question, in my opinion, is just how early it is. So when it comes to the point of like how it's unfolding and was FaZe a fluke and what's the vision moving forward, I think like too early to tell. The simple answer for me is you won champs.
Yeah.
I'm not really looking to make many changes, especially because Jordan, you pointed out earlier, the way we won champs was ramping up.
Yeah.
It wasn't like we survived. It was like we got better and better and better. And we went up, what was it? Was it 4-0 on FaZe or 5-0 on FaZe? I guess it was 4-0 because it's the best of 9, right?
Yeah.
It was like 4-0 and it was not even like a contest for the longest time. And that was in the championship. You know what I mean? So I think like it's really hard for me to be like, yeah, break that thing up or make this one tweak when it seems like it's all coming together better and better along the way. So from my personal perspective, yeah, this is what I would do.
Yeah, for sure. 100%. The first half of this question, we made the right decision keeping it together. Yes. And there are a couple things that we should keep in mind. And these are lessons we've learned from the LCS team, right?
Yeah.
It took that team a while to, I feel like, to get really used to the game. You know, like there's a reason that everything clicked into place when it did. And it's not because they were just slacking off for the first 3 quarters of the season. And then they really, you know, started trying. So I think with this team and this title, one, we shouldn't expect them to pick right up where they left off, nor do they need to. And two, you know, if we can do that same arc where we continue to just improve at the game, that actually bodes really well for us because this is going to be a long title. We talked about that too.
Yeah.
So yeah, just it's going to take a lot of time to figure it out. And I think the other thing that team taught us from last year is you cannot rush into a change with these guys. Because if you did last year, you wouldn't have a ring now.
Exactly.
And so you have to just give them time.
It would have been so easy to abandon the ship, right?
Yep.
On this roster. Like it was weird at the time. We're like, they're keeping it together. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. And Nadeshot was like, nope, this is what we're doing. These are the guys. We're going to trust our staff. We're going to trust our guys, and look where it got us. So, I am cautious of the whole, like, you know, how it worked out for our League of Legends team where, we didn't get back to that pinnacle. And for whatever reason, maybe just, you know, you introduce a little chaos. Like you needed to do something to spice it up or whatever.
Joker?
Yeah. Sorry. This is my terrible joke. But,
really good.
Maybe you needed something like that to spark. There is a potential lesson there. Whether that translates into Call of Duty or not, I don't know. I don't think so. It seems like the names that are big in Call of Duty have a lot of staying power. And we have pretty established names. I mean, Draza is the least established name of any player we have. And dude was pretty nasty at times last year. So kind of fine.
Establishing himself as a name on our team. So,
and the vision moving forward was the last part of the question. I think it's going to be the exact same approach as last year of patience and trust, and our coaches are going to fine tune specific modes and specific maps. You know, that's what I think the vision is like trust and things will fall into place.
Yep.
Which isn't it nice to be fans of an org that has that kind of approach instead of blowing it up at the first sign of trouble?
Yep.
It's kind of nice. Last question was from Sen. I guess this is more of a take. He said, skill wise, we look good. Every player had pop off moments. So checkbox, because we definitely agree with that. Once we learn the maps, spawns, rotations, and create a playbook, we should be a dominant CDL team this year. And I know that gets a little bit of the copy pasta vibe. We're like, they're a great team. All they need to work on is, blah, blah, blah. You know, where he's like, because once we learn the map, spawns, rotations, and create a playbook. But at the same time, everybody's kind of in that same boat. Brand new game, still figuring out. Spawns are still wonky. And the thing is, it seems like our coaching staff and players are the kind of people who will do those things, who will have the playbook, who will know the rotations. And like I said, we seem to be, from this small sample size, playing the game pretty well, even if losing our gunfights. Like we gained more out of the KDs that we produced. You know what I mean? It's like more efficient. with how we played, and that's, I think, an excellent sign. So yeah, and
Yeah.
Sen's adding, don't even sweat about S&D because Shane is a god. Yeah, I think that's what we learned
Yeah.
last time. So
Right. That's what I'm looking forward to. It's like I have full confidence that we'll get back to the point where we're dominant across a match, and it's gonna be fun to watch us get to that point.
Yep. Okay, so I guess we didn't predict. I mean, is it worth even predicting? Do you want to flip a coin on Mutineers and Optic? Like, what are you thinking there?
I think we beat Mutineers. I think we lose to Optic because I still think we're working some things out. I think Optic's good, and I think they've got a lot to play for. So that's my coin flip prediction without much thought.
I'm going to go the other direction. Actually, I'm going to go the inverse of what you're saying. And the reason why is because that's just how things tend to work out. I predict it and it goes wrong. Ordinarily, I'd be in your boat. And I like what I forget who it was that said, Optic's going to be playing with a little bit of chip on their shoulder. That could be kind of what happened to the US in the first game of the World Cup, where it's like that creates like an adrenaline push early and then you kind of burn yourself out. And I think that's in play for Optic, where they may fry on Saturday and then just not be in the same space on Sunday. And I think the Mutineers are underrated. So even it's early to say like where everybody is, but I feel like the Mutineers are going to be a good team. So we will see how that progresses. So Jordan and I, one of us is going to be wrong for sure, and maybe both of us will be. We'll just have to wait and see, and then maybe. I don't think John Robinson's listening anymore, but maybe if the roster for LCS still isn't out, we will be not talking to Jungle Juice again and be doing more LA Thieves. Maybe we'll do LA
Thank
Thieves
goodness for
way.
CDL being here to help us fill the time.
And maybe we can bring back talk trios. That's also an idea if we actually have people who want to do it and participate and play Warzone with us as we go over your takes and questions. And as long as you survive, then the conversation survives. And if you die and we die, guess what? We're going to the next caller. It's a really fun show, but we need a lot of participation to be able to pull it off. So you guys will just let us know. Talk trios, so much freaking fun. I love that. But either way, there will be more CDL talk on the way from us. So with that said, we will bid you adieu and say we love you and we miss you already.